Hey guys, Jonathan here, and this video is a monumental one. I will be reviewing the brand new 2025 $1,000 Lego Death Star, which Lego sent me early to review. Now this is my intro to the intro, and I have to explain why that is. You see, I got this in maybe 2 weeks ago, and I was super excited to see it in person, and when I saw it, I'm like, man, I just don't know how I feel about this. It's a Death Star pancake, but it's also pretty cool. There were times during the build where I'm like, man, this is not worth $1,000. Then there's a part where I'm like, wow, this looks so great. And when I finished building it, I was blown away with it and felt absolutely awesome and just couldn't wait to get it reviewed. But I gave it another day or two before I reviewed it to allow my head to clear out and let my mind be as clear as possible. And after a few days separated from it, I just felt not the same level of excitement as 5 seconds after I finished building it. So then I filmed the review you're about to watch. And in that review, I feel like I waver back and forth. Like the intro, I'm pretty harsh on it and I say that I don't think it's worth $1,000. But then as I get further and further into the video, I kind of show more features and talk about the cool things going on. And then, you know, I am excited about certain parts of it. So I felt like this intro that I'm filming right now was necessary before we get into the video to say, to be completely honest with you guys, I'm still not 100% sure how I feel about this set several days removed. And so I wanted to intro the video with this intro and explain to you why that is. So I hope you can understand that I'm just keeping it real with you guys, that I've not 100% made up my mind how I feel about it yet. But in that case, let's roll the footage and let you decide how you feel about the $1,000 Lego Death Star. Hey guys, Jonathan here, and today we're taking a look at the brand new $1,000 Lego Death Star. Now, Lego sent me this early to review, but of course, all thoughts are my own. And man, oh man, there's a lot to talk about here. Now, this set has 9,023 pieces and 38 minifigures included. We're gonna break everything down from the minifigs, the build experience, the construction, and everything else. So let's get right into it. Now look, right off the bat, $1,000 for a Lego set is new territory. As we take a look at it here, you can see it's basically a just kind of semi-sphere. I don't even really know what shape you would call it other than like a Death Star pancake, and I'm not saying that to be funny. And of course, the elephant in the room is, what does the back look like? And honestly, the back does look just kind of jumbled and like there's a lot going on. So overall, I want to give my impression of it before we get into breaking down every single little detail here. I think that in today's economy, $1,000 for anything that's non-essential is something that every consumer is going to have to really look at and think about, and I hope that this video brings you clarity on how you feel about this set. For me, I am so grateful that Lego sent this to me early to review, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily turn my opinion one way or the other. And I'm sure you can tell from the tone of my voice, I don't love this set. Granted, I think there's a lot to like about it, and there's a lot of cool stuff to get into, but when you consider it's the first $1,000 Lego set at retail, I just don't know that this delivers in the way that I would hope it does for such a monumental milestone for Lego and for Star Wars. The build experience was so much fun. I watched Rogue One and Episode 4 while building it, and man oh man, that was a great time. And in a lot of ways, it really added some pep in the step for the entire experience of the build. That being said, this took me close to a week to build with multiple hour-long sessions. I didn't necessarily time how long the build was, but I would say I probably have close to 10 or 11 hours in the entire build. So with that being said, you certainly get your money's worth in that regard. But with so much to talk about when it comes to this set, I want to break it down into sections. Of course, we're going to look at some of the smaller side builds, we're going to look at all the minifigures, and every single little diorama, display, and play feature that's built into the Death Star. Then, of course, at the end, we'll come on back and I'll give you my full thoughts and final review of the set. But before that, let's start breaking it down piece by piece. Now, I want to start by talking about the general shape of this because that is the most controversial thing. I mean, guys, real talk, let me turn it on its side. This is all it is. It is a giant Lego Star Wars Death Star pancake. Starting at the bottom here, you can see we do have a very nice, very sturdy display for it. Like, it's not going to rock, it's not going to fall out of place. But one thing I would challenge you to think about as you're building it is try to build it somewhere not too far away from where you're going to display it. I've moved this around my house a little bit, and it is very, very, I don't want to say flimsy, but I get nervous moving it. And I would really, really urge you to think about where this is ultimately going to be displayed in your home, in your collection, and try to build it as close to that as possible so you don't have to move it any more than you have to. I generally try to hold it from like right around here, around the base, because as you can see, a lot of these side panels you saw earlier do kind of move and have a little bit of give to them. They're not like super flimsy or anything, but you just got to be careful when moving it and be cognizant of what you're doing. But with that being said, let's start in the hangar bay. There's a lot of things that actually play off each other, so we'll have to be going up and down throughout the entire build. Like, for example, we have this giant hole here that you could drop a minifig through, and of course, that will pay off all the way at the top with Palpatine's throne room where you can drop him. So as we get through the build here, we have this Imperial shuttle, which is where we'll start. As you can see, it is a much smaller Imperial shuttle than I think we've ever gotten at play scale, and it has all the same functionalities where the wings are able to move down, and it actually does look pretty good proportionally, if I'm being honest. I actually like it quite a bit. Then, of course, the wings can move back up, and we have landing gears that can be pushed in or pulled all the way back out very easily to put it on display in the hangar, as you can see here. Now, as far as other play features on it, of course, we can open up the windscreen here where we have our first minifigure. We're going to take a look at the pilot. This is the Imperial shuttle pilot. I love the printing on the legs. It looks so great. And of course, we just kind of get a generic head here. We do see quite a bit of that throughout the troopers and the, different characters in this set. And I'm not too disappointed about that. But overall, great printing here on the front and back and an awesome inclusion. So as we started this segment, you saw what this looked like when it was in there. But let's remove it so that we could take a more objective look at everything here. Now you can see we have our view out into space with the stars, some of which are these little flat pieces and others of which are actually wizard wands that are pushed into those holes. And I kind of like the size difference, but man, does it look weird from the back. I absolutely love the way that these walls are built, and they're actually kind of reflective naturally, so that looks really cool with these fins going up here. And then that brings us to the control room just a little bit higher. It has a window that overlooks the entire hangar, but when we move inside, you can see these stickers on the wall that make for super, super detailed computers and all the buttons. I absolutely love the way that looks. The chairs spin, and we even have some guns and a little coffee mug on the wall there that just help it feel lived in and look so great overlooking that hangar. Now, in the hangar, we've got more minifigures like 3 stormtroopers, an astromech droid. We've got a little box there with some goodies in it. Honestly, to be real with you, I'm not exactly sure what these are for, but I'm sure someone in the comments will let us know. And we have R2 and C-3PO. The stormtroopers here are nothing too crazy or nothing too special. I don't really know exactly what bags which stormtrooper went with. It's not really important. But once you put the helmets on, of course, they are all exactly the same. Great printing on the torso and legs. As far as I can tell, I think these are the same stormtroopers we've been getting in sets, but we do get quite a few of them in this set. 6 to be exact, and it really helps fill out the set. We'll look at more stormtroopers as we rise through the build, but here's our first ones for now. For our droids, we get a little brick-built mouse droid, which, it does look good. We've gotten literally dozens of these over the years, but the one thing I don't like about it is it has this stud pointing down and this hollow stud pointing up. So when you move the Death Star around, like when I've moved it between rooms, sometimes this kind of like wheels and falls its way off, and I feel like a lot of people are going to lose this. Then for our astromech here, he is R3-T6. He has a really unique head here that, of course, is translucent. There's no printing on the back of the body, which, as we take a look at R2-D2, I think in an $1,000 set, it really shouldn't have been the end of the world to get full printing on this figure. Yeah, I know he's basically just a generic astromech droid to most people, but when you see the level of detail that having printing on even the back of the dome brings to R2, I think that LEGO really skipped out here. Like, we could have just gotten a black Death Star droid. I don't really have any, knowledge or affinity of this droid, so I just feel like it was kind of put here just for the exclusivity of it, while it's not all that instantly recognizable. Maybe it's something that I'm missing. I have no clue, but I just feel like this is kind of a generic Death Star droid, and that's that. Moving on to R2, like I said, he is the most detailed version to date. Yes, this version has appeared in other sets, but he has a fully printed all the way around dome, as well as printing on the back of his torso, which looks great. Then our final minifigure for this little section here is C-3PO. I really think getting the doll molded legs would have been absolutely amazing. We've gotten those not all that long on C-3PO, not all that long ago, I should say, but of course, getting leg printing and arm printing on both arms is really nice, but considering this isn't even the nicest version of C-3PO we've gotten in the last 3 or 4 years, it's really puzzling to me how we ended up getting this version in the $1,000 Death Star set. As we continue our journey through the set, over here you can see there's a little area for R2, the astromech, to plug into, and of course that can help control the elevator. Now the elevator door slides open, and that will be repeatable for every floor, and as you can see, there's actually an elevator in there, so we can load a minifigure in like this, then we can close the door and come all the way up to the top where we twist this, and when we twist it, the elevator noodle will kind of move, and it will move the elevator up a floor. So here we go on the second floor. There he is now. We can close the door and it can still fit, and it works really, really great. And it's a unique feature. It sure does take up a lot of space in the middle there, but I do love the connectivity of the story that little knob that when it's twisted is able to move the elevator throughout every single floor and get your minifigures from top to bottom or bottom to top. So as we continue our journey, we could see Darth Vader and Ben Kenobi are perfectly placed here to have their fight. I do kind of think that the base is boring here, though. Like, moving the minifigs aside, if you don't have anything there, man, it's kind of an eyesore that it's just regular gray. Like, couldn't they have done anything more interesting for the floor here? I think that's really disappointing. As for our minifigures in this section, let's take a look at Han Solo up next. Of course, we've gotten tons and tons of Han Solos over the years. As far as my eye can tell, I believe this is the same one that came in the Yavin 4 base from years ago. Not a bad look, not a bad set, but I do have to admit, I think that they've already gotten the Harrison Ford likeness to look better than this, and at this point, this particular head has become very, very generic. Does it work for Han Solo? I definitely think so, but at the same token, I just feel like we've gotten better Han Solos in years past, which is honestly kind of inexcusable yet again to me, and in a $1,000 set. These should be the best definitive versions of characters, and so far of the ones we've looked at yet, I can already think of several better versions of characters we've gotten. Along those lines, up next we have Darth Vader, who I would say is a great example of what I was just talking about, being the best version of that particular character that we've gotten to date. Now, this version is not exclusive. To my eye, it's the same one that came in the Imperial Star Destroyer last year, as well as the Darth Vader mech set, but yet again, as I was saying, I feel like this is the definitive version of Darth Vader. Sure, we've gotten several other versions that have this great arm printing and things like that, but, you know, we're kind of splitting hairs. Getting this level of detail on Darth Vader is what I always dreamed of as a kid, and honestly, I don't really know what LEGO could do better, which, to my point, is exactly the kind of minifigure that should come in this set. Illustrating my point even further, we've got Ben Kenobi, which in my opinion is the best detailed version of old Ben we've gotten ever, having this great hood and the cape. Of course, that hood can be lifted off. We can see he has a reversible head, and this is a brand new minifigure for this set. Now, knowing LEGO, I'm sure this minifig could appear in other sets, but I really don't think there's a better version of Ben Kenobi. Getting leg printing, hip printing, and front and back torso printing is great. Plus, that reversible head looks really, really awesome. Although, when the hair is on, you can actually see his mouth underneath. That's something LEGO usually tries to avoid when they're doing double-sided head prints, but still, I think this is my favorite version of Ben Kenobi we've ever gotten, so I really, really like it, and he's the perfect example of what I'm trying to say. The type of figure should come in this set. Now, before we get into the trash compactor room, let's take a look at Chewbacca. Of course, he has a little staff here as his trash compactor, survival pole there. Then he also has a stud shooter Wookiee bowcaster, which looks good. This is the same version of Chewbacca we've been getting for, well, years now at this point. But I can kind of make an exception here because really, what more could they do other than maybe adding arm printing? But even then, I think Chewbacca is just fine as is, even if he's having trouble standing up in this video. So that brings us to the trash trash compactor. I love the little coffee cup you could see way in the back corner there, but overall, I think that this is built really well. Speaking of how it's built, let's talk about how the set is actually built. You can actually build it in modules with friends or family or whoever the case may be, and for this one, it's kind of built as its own little thing, so somebody can be working on another part. You could basically break it up by books. Not for the entire set, but for most of it. I know you're all wondering, how does it work? And of course, we have this little knob here, which can twist these gears, which will open and close the doors on the inside. So of course, you saw what I was just doing in the back, and when we twist it, the walls move in. You can also see it makes the Dianoga eye move up there, just using a little bit of forced gravity there, and it doesn't close any more than that, but of course, it doesn't close all the way in the movie either. So I do think that's a cool play feature, and also, we'll revisit this in a little bit, because there's a part where you could drop a figure at a higher level, and they'll fall out of here, which is really cool as well. So we'll go ahead and start here for the second floor, right where the elevator opens up. So as you can see, a minifigure could move out of there, and there are actually a couple exposed studs in the hallway where you could have your minifigure stand. I'm gonna move them all out of the way before we talk about them, just so you can see that. And for some reason that I'm perplexed by, you could actually pull out this entire section here, and you can see our first ever Lego Star Wars mini kit. I think outside of an advent calendar, this is the first time it's ever appeared in a set, which is really, really cool. We'll look at it from the back, but I'm not exactly sure why this needed to be, like, able to be removed, other than the fact that maybe it's so that you can, like, reach into the trash compactor down below a little bit easier. But beyond that, it just kind of feels a little forced to have that be able to remove. Forced. You see what I did there? Now this door slides to the other side, and as we move it around back, you can see that mini kit on even better display. I love that and was just so happy while building it. And you can see we even have a bunch of coins and studs just like the video game, as well as the interrogation droid, which just kind of sits right here. And then of course we have all those video game studs there, which are so cool. So we've got those sections down here, and if we move up here, we actually have a Stormtrooper height chart, which is a pretty funny little Easter egg. Aren't you a little short for a Stormtrooper? Ha ha ha. Love it. But, you know, just something fun hidden around back I thought I'd show you guys. One thing about this set is there are definitely a fair share of stickers, but all of these light and white wall panels you see on the side are actually all printed, which are really, really nice and make for some awesome detail. Now for a second floor minifig check-in, we have another Stormtrooper. Again, nothing too crazy or revolutionary here, just nice to have a lot of them here to help fill out the Death Star. We also get 2 Imperial crew members. This one, I believe, is the exact same one that comes in the Imperial Star Destroyer, and this one has the same exact torso and legs as the previous, but I believe this head is new, if I'm not mistaken, and I love the hat hairpiece combo for the female Imperial crew. These are definitely nice, and once again, great inclusions to help fill out the Death Star. And here we have a female Imperial Navy officer using that same hat hair combo, but of course this time with a brunette hairpiece and a head. It's not a new head, but it just makes, again, you're gonna guess what I'm gonna say by this point, a great inclusion to fill out the Death Star. So if we hop on the elevator and go up one floor, we've got the Detention cell block center, which looks really great. Now, one thing that does annoy me are these computers that are closest to us, the viewer, actually just kind of spin in place. So I find that they don't really stay where we want them to. I wish that Lego could have put some kind of stud there or something to keep that at bay. But of course, you can see I've put some more minifigures up here. We do have that Detention cell block back there. And then we have the hallway back this way, which has a very nice sticker there that kind of gives us a forced perspective look. And of course, as mentioned, we have this little tunnel here, which when we drop a minifigure through, they end up down in the trash compactor, which is super cool. So let's do that one more time for fun. So that chute where we drop the figures through actually is always open. It doesn't come with any bricks for it to not be blasted open, but we can also open up this little garage door here, and that leads us to Princess Leia's cell, which is accessible by pulling this wall out and pulling out her entire jail cell. You can take that Imperial probe droid from before and clip him into place, and then of course you can have Princess Leia lay back on the bed, and have her there for when Luke Skywalker busts through the door. We'll go ahead and remove this piece for right now for illustrating, but this piece slides right in, and we can see Princess Leia right through the door, just like the movie. As for our minifigs on this floor, we have Han and Luke both in their Stormtrooper outfits, both of which use the same Han and Luke head that are used on the other figures in this set, so nothing too crazy here, but definitely nice to get them in variant outfits to display here. As for our minifigs on this floor, we have Han and Luke both in their Stormtrooper outfits, both of which use the same Han and Luke head that are used on the other figures in this set, so nothing too crazy here, but definitely nice to get them in variant outfits to display here. I'm recording this as an afterthought, but would it have been the end of the world for LEGO to include 2 more Stormtrooper helmets to put on Han and Luke? That way you could have them in disguise, just like we see in the movie, and then technically we'd get 8 Stormtroopers instead of just 6. Here's our final 2 Stormtroopers. If we lift up the heads, you can see what they look like here. Again, nothing too crazy. This is the same head as on one of those Imperial crew members we just looked at, but beyond that, just good to have more for the team. And here we have an Imperial Navy Trooper. Pretty basic printing all around. Nice to get a front and back head print, but once again, nothing too wild here. But yeah, good inclusion. And here we have Princess Leia, which once again really doesn't work for me because we've gotten better versions of Leia, namely ones that actually use the skirt piece instead of legs, because very clearly in the A New Hope scenes where she's on the Death Star, she has the skirt piece, which we've gotten from LEGO with printing before. So to get legs here and legs alone feels very lazy to me. Now I get why they did this. It's so she can lay down in the jail cell. It's so she can fit through here and fall into the trash compactor. I do get it, but in an $1,000 set, do you really think it would have been impossible for LEGO to also include the skirt piece, which would just give us more detail, and then you could display her wherever you want with the dress skirt piece and swap them out when you need to for player display. It just really bothers me, and I feel like a lot of corners were cut in certain places here. Now, moving down the hallway here, we can actually pull this tab and remove a secret room back here, but to be honest with you, in all my Star Wars knowledge, I'm having trouble pinning what this is. Maybe it's just the design of it that isn't sticking out to me, but regardless, not 100% sure right there. As we move along the second floor, there's a walkway here, and the back wall is absolutely amazing. In fact, this big open space here, we'll move the shield generator aside, is one of my favorite parts of the entire build. We'll come back to it with Luke swinging across the gap there up top, but we do have the shield protector generator here that, of course, Ben Kenobi turns off so that they can escape. The tractor beam, that is. And these all move up, which is kind of cool, too. So you could engage and disengage the tractor beam, which looks really great. I called it a shield generator a second ago. Definitely the tractor beam. But regardless, we can move over here into Vader's meditation chamber. Now, in the meditation chamber, we can slide this door open so that minifigs can access their way into Vader's chamber. And on the wall here, we have some great Easter eggs we'll look at in just a second. But the chamber itself can actually be fully removed. That way we can actually see into the back where Palpatine is Zoom calling in on the holograph. And there's the doorway that your minifigs can enter into the chamber with. On the wall, we have some of the best Easter eggs and references here, of course, for pod racing, even Palpatine and Vader on vacation, a picture of Padme and Anakin's Naboo starfighter, plus a Join the Empire poster. So, depressing to see Padme there. So sad, the life of Darth Vader. But he can meditate on it in this chamber. So here's the chamber in full. It doesn't actually like lower or close or anything, which again, in an $1,000 set, do you really think it would have been the end of the world for LEGO to be able to do that? But I found it's easiest just to remove that entire back piece to go ahead and fit Vader inside. We can do that here, then push his cape down, and of course he could flip 360 to greet whoever comes to speak to him here. And then, of course, we could just put this big contraption on the top again. And now we have Vader in his transformation chamber, which doesn't actually close. We are now on the 4th floor, so we'll go ahead and close that elevator. You can see we've got those printed tiles back there with some space for minifigs to stand around in front of a board, which is actually very difficult to see. Sorry for swapping to vertical cam, but it's the only way I can really get those in focus because it's hidden behind this door so much. But when we look there, you can see we've got an ad for blue milk with the Twi'lek. We've got target practice lessons there with the stormtroopers. Looks like somebody actually did take the call number. We've got wanted posters for Han and Leia and a T-16 ad up top there. Now over to the left, we have two Imperial gunners, both of which are manning the command stations, and that brings us to the giant Death Star laser. Now, something that really annoys me over here is the fact that the green, lasers don't quite line up. Like, when you really zoom in, you can see that they're all kind of hitting the center at different lengths. From a distance, it really doesn't matter, but up close, you could definitely see that they don't land all the same place, and that drives my OCD nuts. This is our final play feature that's hidden around back, and when we twist this knob, we can change the planet for when Alderaan is blown up. So if we zoom in behind the minifigures here, you can see me twist that, and now Alderaan has been blown to pieces. So yeah, that's a pretty cool feature with those stickers there, and I like that quite a bit. Our Imperial Gunner minifigures are identical, aside from the heads underneath, but they have really great helmet printing, and as you can see, we get two different heads. Love the leg printing on these. Get a little bit of back printing there too, which is nice. But yeah, the helmet molding, the printing on the forehead, all so incredibly great, and awesome inclusions to put right over here, right where they belong. Now, one of my biggest gripes with the building experience is actually with the swing scene here, where Luke and Leia swing across the way. Now, in the movie, of course, we see them swing from this side, like we as the viewer see them swing this way. But I had to go back and check the instructions. I'm not crazy. It literally shows Luke and Leia swinging from the opposite direction in the instructions. And, you know, I guess, as Obi-Wan would say, from a certain point of view, they could have been swinging this way, but it's just as easy to have them swing in this direction by switching what direction they're facing. So it's just really annoying to me that they didn't take that into consideration. But as far as play features go, this little gear here can turn, and you can actually extend the entire walkway. If you don't want to have it be like a swing scene, then of course you could just remove that. And the gear to make them swing is actually up in Palpatine's throne room right here. When you swing this, it makes them go back and forth. But overall, I really like the back walls here with those printed pieces, even the pieces built into the ceiling here. It does look really good. It's just one little nitpicky thing from the instructions there that drives me crazy. And in our room furthest to the side here, we can open and close this door. And of course, it is the Imperial boardroom with all of our leaders here. Now, the chairs can, you know, swivel in and you can put your figures there, but we do get 4 great brand new minifigs here. So let's take a look at those up next. General Tag is a great inclusion here. I love that every officer has their own badge ranking there, and they didn't just reuse them. I mean, you would hope that they wouldn't do that, but LEGO Star Wars has certainly been lazier in the past. So it is really, really nice that that's not the case here. Getting both head expressions are great, and while I don't think that this head is going to be used in any other sets, it is a very expressive head that would make for great customs from other themes, but overall, great inclusion to have him here. Admiral Mahdi is a great inclusion as well, once again having a unique badge there as well as a new head print, and he has an alternate expression from when he's being choked by Vader with the Force, which of course is one of the most iconic scenes to take place on the entire Death Star, so I'm really glad that it's included here. Colonel Yularen is one of my favorite minifigs in the entire set because, of course, he is exclusive, and I love that new torso, looking great, and of course that reversible head with the open mouth expression is so cool, and definitely great to have him here. You know, now that his whole story has been filled out with like the Clone Wars and everything, I really love having him here. And another one of my favorite minifigs here is Grand Moff Tarkin. Look at his ranking badge there, looking so awesome with a reversible head. I think that they really nailed the likeness on this figure, and it just looks absolutely phenomenal. Once again, being one of my favorites from the set. I feel like now is a good time to take a little segue break and take a look at the UCS nameplate here. Thankfully, this is printed, not a sticker, and it does look great. You can pause and read all the facts if you want. Then, of course, we have the computer console here, brick-built, and 2 of the most hype minifigs in the set, those being Galen Erso and Director Krennic. Galen Erso is a really great minifig. Love the torso and even the arm print, which is awesome. And of course, the Death Star plans as his in-hand accessory are just beyond awesome. I have to admit, though, I don't really think that this head looks all that much like him, and I don't really know that the hairpiece does either. That being said, using existing Lego parts, I'm not sure what I would recommend, and I also wouldn't recommend that because I think it is good that he's exclusive to this set, being that the Death Star is kind of inadvertently his own design and creation, even if against his will. But I really, really like this minifig and am so glad he's included. And, you know, there's been a lot of conversation over whether figures should be exclusive to sets or not. I could totally understand wanting Galen Erso to be in a cheaper set, but if he has to be exclusive to something, which I don't know if LEGO will keep him that way or not, I am glad that he's at least tied to the Death Star history in that respect. The new Director Krennic minifig is really great as well. I do like the head here a lot. I actually think I probably like it more than the original. I think that they really nailed the likeness here. We do get printing on the back, which is really, really nice. That cape looks good here. Even though I'm not a big fan of the spongy capes, I do think it works here, and I love this minifig. It's one of my favorites in the set, and I think LEGO absolutely crushed it. Now, the 5th floor doesn't have much going on over to the left here. Of course, we have the Imperial dignitary hanging out, as well as another Navy officer. And back here, we actually have the little, control panels that can turn on the laser for the Death Star. So that is cool. There's a lot of stickers back there. Not really a good way to get the camera in to show you. It's one of those things that just kind of translate better in person. Of course, we also have a elevator door that opens just like all the other floors. And when we walk through here, it brings us to Palpatine's throne room. However, I want to save that for last as we come up to the 7th floor, which is just this little landing where we've got 2 minifigs here, one of which is probably my favorite in the entire set, which is funny because he's like the only character here that's non-canon, but it is the bathtub Imperial Stormtrooper. So we'll move him out of the way, and in fact, this entire panel lifts up to show this secret hidden room of the hot tub. So the trooper can actually fit into the hot tub, but you can actually remove the entire hot tub and display it on its own if you wanted. But as you can see, he's got a radio on the wall, he's got a microphone for karaoke as well as a brush, and this can close down, and if that reference is a little too goofy for you, of course you could just kind of hide it there. The door does technically pop out if you wanted it to, but I do like that, you know, because that is a little bit zany, maybe you want a very, very serious looking Death Star. It is nice that you could hide him completely if you wanted, but now's as good a time as any to take a look at the minifig. So the hot tub stormtrooper uses a slightly tanned body, because if you look at him next to Luke Skywalker, you can see the hot tub trooper has a little bit of a tan going on, which is quite nice. Getting those doll molded legs are really, really nice. I should say dual molded. I've just always said doll my whole life. That's how I pronounce it, and everybody cooks me for saying it the way I say it. Anyways, great Imperial printing on there, and the helmet lifts up, and we see a great face underneath. This droid is 5D6RA7. Say that 10 times fast, and I promise you, I did not know that without looking it up on the box. But we get a brand new head mold here, which looks awesome. Phenomenal torso printing and leg printing that just looks absolutely great. And overall, I'm really glad they included this because, you know, we've had the discussion even earlier in this video, like, should figures be exclusive in this set? And I do feel like there is something nice about having some exclusive minifigures in a $1,000 set. Like, I get that everybody should be able to get every figure, but something like this that's kind of inconsequential, it is nice to have, and I don't know. I go back and forth on that. As of right now, though, considering how lackluster I feel the set is on its own, I do think it is nice to have something in the minifig department that's a little more exclusive. But then again, for droid collectors, maybe this wouldn't be the optimal one to be exclusive, and this would, since it's directly tied to the Death Star, and it's kind of a fun way to pay homage to the video games over the years. So, in this very moment, I'm even retracting my own statement. I think that a droid like this could maybe pop up in a set later on, but something like this that's just kind of a silly Easter egg is a perfect exclusive for a set like this. Anyway, we've got one more Imperial Navy Trooper, this time also having a reversible head, which is quite cool, having like a scared expression on one side and more content on the other with that chin strap. And another exclusive minifigure being the Imperial Dignitary. This looks really, really cool. This, of course, takes me back to the old Kenner toys from the 80s from Return of the Jedi. And it's really cool that the head is reversible here. I almost feel like this head could work for like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, which would be super sweet. But yeah, that's the beautiful thing about being able to make customs. I can make that happen if I so desire. Now, there's a lot to look at in Palpatine's throne room, but before we do, you can see that there's a little doorway over here, and that doorway actually leads over to the side where this part lifts up, and you can see we have a gun in there, which is, you know, kind of paying homage to all the guns from the trench run, that is. And you can see you can put a minifigure there to be able to man the gun, and that does look cool, but it definitely sticks out of the side, so if that bothers you, it's definitely ruining that kind of side shape. Of course, you could always remove it and make the ceiling fall. No! Well, gravity was getting a little ahead of itself here. I was going to show you that you can remove the roof up here to let more light into Palpatine's throne room, which is quite cool. Now, we can turn this entire thing around, which I think we should, so that we can take a look at the way the window is constructed here. The window is held in basically by gravity. You've got these two clips that's holding this printed window piece in, and then there's a pipe that runs all the way through here that you clip these little window builds in that hold the window into place. It's actually in there pretty sturdy, but the fact that this protrudes so far out of the back means you can't just put this build straight up against a wall. It's always going to have to be at least that far out, which, you know, again, as I was saying at the beginning of this video, I kind of feel like a set like this, you should know instantly where you're going to put it in your collection, but this one is so large, I'm not even sure where I'm going to put it. I'm still thinking about it as of this video. But now that brings us into Palpatine's throne room. There's a lot to love here, but there's a lot that really bothers me. First and foremost, in the movie, we see the figures, or I guess the characters, walking behind the steps where they battle, and there's no reality in which that could happen because the figures are taller than the steps all the way up. Now, as for how it looks, I do think that this looks pretty great. You know, Palpatine can swivel around in his chair. We got to take the electric shocks out of his hand there, but you can push him back in his chair, and you can have him swivel the whole way around. Like that, his cape's bunched up back there too, but regardless, you can see we have these two studs for Vader and Luke to fight, and you can recreate that iconic scene from the movie. We do get two Imperial guards here. We have this walkway that comes out for more of the final battle. Speaking of the final battle, you can pull this, and it will make that back ledge fall out, just like we see in the movie, which is quite cool. And then we can recreate the most iconic scene right here. So as I referenced at the beginning of the video, you can actually drop Palpatine down through the hole and he'll fall all the way through the Death Star shaft. That is just too fun. But yeah, looking around the throne room, I do think it is built pretty well. I do like it quite a bit, but just the fact that it's so crammed and scaled down really, really is annoying. It is definitely the most regal part of the build. I love that, but it just feels so cramped, kind of like everything in this set has by this point. For Palpatine's throne room, you can see we do get two royal guards. I'll lift that up so you can see there is some great printing on that torso there, even on the back, and the cape is double-sided with a very bright red on the outside and a very dark red to match the arms on the inside. Of course, both figures are absolutely identical, but the fact that you can put both on either side of the steps is really awesome. Emperor Palpatine here looks really good, but as far as my eye can tell, this is the exact same version that came in Palpatine's throne room diorama not all that long ago. So if you already had that, not only do you have this entire diorama as its own standalone set, but you already have this version of Palpatine too. He does come with the electric, bolts you can put in his hand, which are nice, but I'm not really sure what they could have done to make him better, don't get me wrong, but if you're a Star Wars completist and you already have this, it's not adding anything significantly new at this point in time. Unfortunately, all of those same statements could be made about Luke Skywalker here. Don't get me wrong, it's a great minifig, and I love this hairpiece. I think it's perfect for Luke from this movie, but it is the exact same Luke that came in that diorama from before, so if you already had that, you already have this. But that brings us to the end of the review, so the one thing I want to show you is adding the GWP in the hangar bay. If you buy the set upon release for a limited time, you'll get this TIE Fighter with Imperial Hangar rack set, which of course is a GWP that plugs right into the hangar over here. In this set, we get a little utility cart here. Inside these boxes, there are thermal detonators. There's 2 boxes with printing on them, each one with its own detonator. And we get a Stormtrooper here, one more to add to the set. This GWP comes with another Stormtrooper that we can add to the set, as well as a TIE Pilot that's the same as the UCS TIE Pilot, just with a different head here. Still a great minifig nonetheless, though. And we get this little TIE Fighter. Now, I know it needed to be built at this scale in order to fit into the hangar, but it is really small, guys. Like, look, when we lift this up, we fit the minifig inside a little something like this. I mean, it is tiny. So we go ahead and put this back on. And then we also get this brick-built hanger piece that's going to allow it to hang in the hangar. So there's those Technic receiver pieces right up here. So once that's hung up safely, the TIE Fighter can fit right in there. And interestingly enough, it hangs tall enough that, like, you could actually have both of these in there at the same time. And there's still plenty of room to, like, line up your figures down below. So, like, overall, it's not too bad of an inclusion. It doesn't make it too cramped or anything. In fact, there's even room to put the little, like, driver thing here. I think by the time you add that, this does start to feel pretty cramped, but overall, it is a really, really nice inclusion. So, the other thing is, I don't believe that there's anything on here that is exclusive. Maybe this printed window piece off the top of my head. I'm not sure if that's come elsewhere, but all of these other pieces are non-exclusive. So you could theoretically just buy the pieces and build this if you miss out on the GWP. Something to consider if you're watching this video at a much later date. Well, that brings us to the end of the video, guys. I really, genuinely, deeply wanted to love this set more than I do. Now, I do think that it is a behemoth of a build, so if you've got $1,000 to spend, maybe some Christmas money, birthday money down the line, it definitely is the ultimate show of LEGO Star Wars fandom to have this, but at the same token, I don't know that I love it on display like I do even some other UCS sets I'm looking at around my house here that are off camera. A big problem, of course, as we discussed, is moving it and having somewhere to display it. And to be completely transparent with you, my entire house has Lego in it. It's the coolest place in the world to live, but I genuinely do not know where I'm going to put this, that I have room for it, because you can't necessarily put it up against a wall. As we looked at, there are so many play features here, and it's even going to stick out against the wall here, that, like, it's just an awkward thing to display in general. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with it, to be honest. I mean, it's not like I'm going to disassemble it. I'll find somewhere to display it, but it's not like other sets where I naturally know exactly where it's going to fit in my collection. And I think for something this expensive and this big, honestly, I should know exactly where I want to put something like this and not have to kind of make space for it, if you get what I mean. But as we round the bases for home in this review, I do like the set a lot. I just don't like it and love it as much as I hoped I would. It is far from a bad set. It is far from a terrible set. I think it brings a lot of value to the table, and as I've said, is the ultimate display of LEGO Star Wars fandom. But at $1,000, I just think that there are better ways to spend your money within the LEGO hobby. But at this point, we've spent a lot of time together on this video, so not only do I want to say a huge thank you for that, but I do have to ask that you let me know what you think of this set in the comments down below. Needless to say, there's going to be tons to talk about, and I can't wait to unpack that together, so be sure to like and subscribe, check out the comments down below, let's see what everybody's saying on this one, and I'll see you on the next video.